Well, we're looking at excerpts from the first section of Kant's groundwork for the metaphysics of morals. One of the difficulties of reading Kant is just reading it. Being able to read it as a student, I found it incredibly hard when I first read it. Still find it hard, but not that hard. So one of the things I like to do is just read it through with you, hoping that say some things along the way that might help. First section, transition from the common rational knowledge of morality to the philosophical. Kant wants to start with what he thinks is intuitively obvious to every person about morality and put that on a rational, reasonable basis. Start with kind of what we already know and then try to provide a philosophical basis for what we already know. Nothing can possibly be conceived in the world or even out of it which can be called good without qualification except a goodwill. By goodwill, he means a human being having a goodwill, a good intention, a good idea of that, a good motive more than idea. So that's the one thing that Kant says is good in itself, is having a good motive, having a good intention, meaning good. Intelligence, wit, judgment, and the other talents in the world, however they may be named, or courage, resolution, perseverance, as qualities of temperament, are undoubtedly good and desirable in many respects, but these gifts of nature may also become extremely bad and mischievous if the will which is to make use of them, and which therefore constitutes what is called character, is not good. So let's just say having high intelligence is a good, but if you have evil intentions, that high intelligence can be used for bad purposes and become something bad. What does he say? Courage is a good, but if that courage is employed to accomplish evil things, it's bad. The only thing that can be always good in itself, intrinsically good, is a goodwill. Think of what Aristotle said about happiness in this regard. It is the same with gifts of fortune, power, riches, honor, even health, and the general well-being and contentment with one's condition, which is called happiness, inspire pride and often presumption if there is not a goodwill to correct the influence of these on the mind. So for Kant, not even happiness is good in itself, which Aristotle would reject. And with this also to rectify the whole principle of acting and adapt it to its end. So you can see that for him, the only thing that's good in itself is the will. You can have a good will, and that good will cannot be changed, I suppose. The sight of a being who is not adorned with a single feature of a pure and good will, enjoying unbroken prosperity, can never give pleasure to an impartial rational spectator. Thus, a good will appears to constitute the indispensable condition even of being worthy of happiness. So one of the things we know right away is that Kant is very interested in this notion of a good will, that he believes that that's the foundation, really, um, of ethics and morality. And we can see him leaning towards a position already that says that what's really important in morality is intention, the thought and motivation behind an act, and that's where we'll find the the basis for evaluating it morally. He says here, I'm just going to skip a paragraph, a good will is good not because of what it performs or affects, that is, not because of its results, not by its aptness for the attainment of some proposed end, but simply by virtue of the volition. That is, goodwill is not good because it produces something good. A goodwill is just good because of what it is. That is, he says, it is good in itself. It's absolutely good. So at the end of the section, he says, there is, however, something so strange in this idea of the absolute value of the mere will, in which no account is taken of its utility, that notwithstanding the thorough assent of even common reason to the idea, yet a suspicion must arise that it may perhaps really be the product of mere high-flown fancy, and that we have misunderstood the purpose of nature in assigning reason as a governor of our will. Therefore, we will examine this idea from this point of view. So, where are we so far? Let me just write a few things, so just give me a moment. What Kant has started out by saying is that there is something good in itself, just kind of similar to Aristotle. But that what's good in itself is not something like happiness. What's good in itself is a good will. Basically, good intention, good motivation behind an action, and that a good will does not depend upon anything else in order to be good. It just is good. But this raises a certain question. Right? I mean, we have all sorts of motivations and intentions. So this is, I think, an obvious question. What is a good will? Or you might put it this way. It should be, how do we know? How do we know that the will is good? I mean, what is it that differentiates a good will from a bad will or something like that? And I think that that's what we need to look for in the next section.